Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-thru openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
What's up? Hey, Coffee Experts Club. Hello, everybody. Good to see you, Drew.
Nice to see you too, buddy.
Yeah. So Aaron's got the week off, so you get the Zoo crew over here with me and Drew, just hanging out, talking about stuff. And we were just talking about, actually, we were talking about it because it's something we're working on with one of our clients currently is POS systems, the bane of every coffee owner's existence, the thing that you absolutely must have and the thing that you absolutely hate. And just with the current client we're working with, we're looking for new POS systems, new POS hardware platforms, and are currently just kind of going through the list of all the ones that are out there. So we figured it'd be good to actually bring it to the Coffee Experts Club listeners and kind of bring our thoughts, our findings, our research, and just talk about, the pros and cons, what are good ways and bad ways to go about choosing a POS system, what do you need in a POS system, all of those fun knickknacks, hopefully makes your life a little bit easier when you're either thinking about swapping or thinking about if you're just starting up a new coffee shop, what you should start with. Of course, as Aaron always says, if you are looking to start your own coffee company, coffee drive-thru, Coffee Experts Club is to be for that. So, Mr. Drew, I figured we'd start with you because you guys for Daily Spice right now use Square, and I feel like that's the typical starting point for most coffee shop owners in like when they're choosing a new POS system. Probably because it's a really low barrier to entry.
Yeah, it's easy to use, easy to understand, fully customizable, and the reporting, if you keep up with it, is incredibly handy to track sales, popular items, and to roll out, deals or discounts. You can do it on the spot. I can change the POS from my phone, sitting here in the shop. So there's a lot of really user-friendly capabilities that Square offers. And I mean, when you're considering what POS software to use, there's obviously things to keep in mind, such as where you're at now. And I mean, a bunch of the big companies eventually choose to create their own POS software or to partner with a POS business and inevitably absorb it. I've seen that happen a couple of times and fully customize it for their business needs. So we always recommend easy and cheap out the gate, nice. And if you can, free. Obviously POS software costs money, but as little as possible for what you need out the gate is best form for when you're kicking off your business because you're not sure what expenses you're going to have. So Square's been good to us. We used it a lot back at Roasters for almost the entire time I was there. We ended up switching to a little bit more complex systems near the end of my Roasters career. But what I really liked about Square was just the user interface. I mean, you have to think of the perspective of the people working for you as well. So when you're dealing with these young kids, you're teaching them a whole new set of skills. I mean, maybe they've been a barista in the past, but being a barista is a set of skills. You have to know how to make a drink. You have to know the difference between a mocha and a latte. And, to us in the coffee industry, that's obvious, but to somebody who doesn't know anything, that can be complicated. So you're teaching these people who don't know, a 2% latte from a whole milk latte, from a mocha, from an Americano, all of these skills, how to make the drinks, how to use the equipment, which can be intimidating. They're big, shiny pieces of metal. how to talk to customers and not just stand there and stare at them awkwardly. So there's all these things you have to keep in mind when you're introducing a POS system when it comes to complexity, because our businesses are innately kind of complex because you have to be a master multitasker to be a barista, or at least somewhat good at multitasking. Not everybody's a master, but they get there eventually. So what I really liked about Square is the easy user interface. I mean, it's colorful. You can customize what colors you want different screens to be. If I have like an ice drink menu where I have all of my iced signatures laid out, iced mochas, iced lattes, anything cold, I can make them blue, or if I have hot drinks, I can make them red. Or if I have a food menu, I can make it brown, or I can customize, even further down into using little emojis, or I can put pictures, which some people choose to do. I know for different restaurants, they'll use like a picture of a pizza, or they'll use a picture of an iced latte versus an iced white mocha. It might be hard to distinguish visually. So it's why I refer to restaurants with their pizza, but the user interface is really nice. And the reporting itself is super handy as well. I really liked the year over year reporting, day by day, week by week, month by month. I just loved how concise it was. I loved my ability to go in, and if I'm curious, like how many mochas did I sell last month? I can find that information pretty easily. And so it's been nice for us here at De Los Mayas. It has its ups and downs as with any POS, but we've been happy with its functionality so far.
Funny you talking about complexity. I immediately made me remember my first week of training at Starbucks, like years and years and years and years and years ago. And being on that POS for the first time, like ringing up customers, and just like utter panic I felt the entire time. Like, be like, can I get a blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, it was like reading an entire encyclopedia, and they're standing there drinking. I'm like looking over at the trainer. She's like, it's right there. It's right there. The latte is right there. I'm like, but it's not true. Like that complexity, like the last thing you want is your barista freezing up, especially when it's busy, just because they can't find like where the mocha is. Like make the POS as intuitive, like user friendly as possible. So important. Using Square back in Roasters Day, where we got to color coding like even types. It was like Italian sodas were all pink, blended drinks were all orange, and hot drinks red, and that made it super, super easy. And the second you change something, like I'd actually make like the iced mochas, blue, or I'd make them yellow. The baristas would freak out.
It's funny you mentioned training, because you were my trainer when I was going through those panic modes. So I was freezing up at Road 68, looking over at you, and you guys are always cool as a cucumber. But to me, I didn't know how to add an extra shot to a mocha.
Yep. How is Square's side of, so like a big thing now, obviously, is I think we've got just about everybody off the paper stamp card and into digital loyalty with POS systems. But how is their loyalty along with like the marketing that you can do on the backside of it? Do they allow like do they have integrated emailing your customers, like promotions, that type of stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, we actually don't use that here in Belize, just because, to be totally frank, the community here is not quite so tech oriented as in the US. But I do have some clients, and we have client in Montana, we have client in Oregon that do use the marketing functionality side of things. And yeah, you can input, obviously attached to a purchase. So a credit card, you can add phone numbers, names, and you can do texting campaigns, which then if you're shifting away from paper loyalty cards, I mean, we do stamp cards here. Like I mentioned, it's just not so technology based here in Belize, but we used to roll out rewards, so if you purchase X amount of drinks in a week, you get an extra, I think it was a star based system. You're getting stars instead of stamps, but it's the same concept. And you earn those based on how much money you spent, and so as these customers are accruing purchases, they would then in your system be getting rewards built up under their name. So they could just come in and say, hey, do I have any rewards? And you can search them in your system and say, yeah, you have $5 off, or you have a free drink. So in a sense, it's really nice for the customers, because I mean, we know customers are always losing their stamp cards or misplacing their gift card, which is a benefit to us. If they lose all their stamp cards, we're not giving out so many free drinks. But really, if we're trying to serve our customers, we want to support that side of things too. We don't do it as like a backhanded way to get free stuff, or to not give free stuff, I suppose. But it's nice the way that Square does the tracking and reporting of your customers, because you can see a life cycle of a customer too. You can see how much money went with you over the life cycle of, them purchasing from your stand. And in that sense, I mean, we used to do things through reviews. Square would allow reviews. So we'd say, okay, if we have a number one person who shops at our stand, we can then find that really easily and then give that person rewards, because really we want to support the people who are supporting us. So
Mhm.
I say all these things to say it's multifaceted the way that Square has integrations that you can reward your customers that come through your
Nice.
stands.
Nice. Nice. And I think like pricing wise too, I think that's one of the big selling points that Square has is it's free, the software's free. Basically, you need essentially just need an iPad.
Mhm.
They've got hardware that you can that's nice. It's fancy hardware. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen those Square stands that are really nice. So you don't have to have them. You really just need an iPad hardware. And they're I just looked up their credit card processing is pretty dang competitive with just about everybody. It's 2.6% plus 15 cents per transaction. That's kind of across the board, especially with these POSs we'll talk about that I've been looking up. That's honestly a little on the low side for compared to most of them. So I get why, and I honestly would encourage like any new coffee shops startup, go with Square. Like you said, for all their reasons, and their pricing is really competitive. Like at one location and you're building a customer base, all you need is a way to basically run a credit card. And then from there, you can start thinking about, loyalty and marketing, all that sort of stuff. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, Square's definitely the way to go. I would say still, I mean, there's a reason why they're such a big player.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's easy for us to use as well. And we don't have credit card integrations here. The banks here have a monopoly on how you can actually run credit cards. So we use it
Mhm.
mostly for reporting. We don't actually use the customer side of things because, like I mentioned, they don't track the credit card purchases through Square. So even for what we use it for, just for reporting, Square has been really handy.
Which is kind of nice, actually. You got the best of both worlds. You get the free reporting and you're not paying the credit processing fee from Square.
True. It's true. Yeah. I mean, it's
Uh,
it's extra step to charge people through these little credit card readers, but I mean,
yeah.
Square makes you can tap like directly, even on the iPad integrated hardware systems. It plugs into like a tappable device. You can
Mhm.
pop their card on it and it reads the card.
Yeah.
Hey, experts, we've got something really awesome that we do here at Coffee Experts Club, and that's called the My First Drive-Thru Coffee Masterclass. So if you're opening your next coffee shop, I think a lot of times you may think to yourself, I know what goes into opening a coffee shop. I've been doing this for years, but maybe you've been doing it for somebody else. And maybe this is your first option of starting a coffee shop on your own. Or maybe you don't know anything about coffee and you're just like, I'm looking for a good investment opportunity. Starting a coffee shop seems like a good place to put it, and you're going to enter into it. But what you don't know is all the things that you don't know, right? And so what we've done with this masterclass is taken behind the scenes, how you find your first location, what you need to be thinking about in finding a location. We give you a gift in the masterclass where it's a step-by-step process of how you're opening your coffee shop, the different checkpoints you need from coming up with your plans and talking with the city and then negotiating a lease. And then how do you build a team and what are the different pieces you need to be thinking about? It's a great masterclass, door to door, start to finish, completely free on opening up your next coffee drive-through. So check it out. It's at myfirstdrivethrough.coffee. And it's a great masterclass. You won't regret it. We'll see you on the inside there.
So on to the one I've been looking at. So like I said, we're doing a research project for a client on best POSs out there. And for us, it really came down to a list of the names that are probably pretty familiar to folks. Toast,
Mhm.
Otter, Lightspeed was one I had actually not heard of. Touch Bistro, that's another big player, and Spot On. Those are kind of the ones I was looking at, and they seem to be trying to be the big players right now. I would say, for what a coffee shop needs. Our client gave us really specific needs of what this POS system has to have for them to want to take it on, and it's pretty much everything you would need for a coffee shop. There has to be some sort of employee management system. Can you track payroll? Can you track hours? Can you track tips? All of that inside the POS system. Is there running hardware? Can you run orders with it? That's super important once you start having, those long lines. You want to be able to, if you're not going to run the traditional speaker box, it just seems kind of these days, there's not too many people doing that anymore. Coffee industry seems to have been shifting. I mean, even shifting when we started, but I think it's really, really shifted to, no more speaker boxes and instead of running orders, which is smart because you can run and you can charge outside and that just makes your line that much faster. So those were big, important keys. What are the other ones? Of course, the reporting, the track transaction times. That's super important. Like the second the order hits that KDS, kitchen display system for your bar, does it start tracking how long it takes to make that drink? One of the POS system we had, what at Roasters before we left, called Touchpoint. They were really great about that. 'Cause the drink would hit the KDS, the barista would have to acknowledge it, which would start timing. They would kick it out over to the window for the transaction to be completed, and they would hit stop on a KDS, and then would go over to transactions. So you could actually track the life cycle of a single order, which was really great. Again, for tracking times, you can get averages. So that was a big thing for this client. Also, one huge thing that you'll absolutely want to make sure is a possibility that you think you won't know about it until you run into it. It's offline mode. Because if your internet goes down, you don't want to just turn people away. I think we learned that real quick. The first time it happened, it was pretty quick going into Square when we first brought it on, and the internet went out the shop. Everyone, oh crap, what do we do? They're like, you have cash? Sorry, especially in today's day and age, like nobody has cash in the US. Like, right, that's like 30% of your sales are cash, 40% maybe. So offline mode. So we went through all of these, the helps of AI, and it really turned out to be Toast seemed to be the clear winner when it came to the POS systems, pricing wise. And they have, from what I can tell, just about everything you could and would need and more. They have all of the marketing, the loyalty. They have marketing built in, or you can send out. I mean, we'll join your loyalty program. I give you your phone number. I think you can send out up to like 20,000 text messages for just saying, "Hey, do you remember who we are? Here's a coupon code." They have the KDS systems. They have handhelds that you can run with if you want to purchase their other hardware. And their pricing was pretty competitive. I can't remember where I stuck it, but it wasn't as competitive as Square, but it was pretty darn close. So I think the big decision you have to make is if you're ready to make the switch from something like a Square to an upgrade like a Toast, because you are going to pay more. And I think once you start getting into that 3, 4, 5 locations, especially if they're spread out over a large area, then I think it's worth looking at, okay, do we need to upgrade from Square, from something that's simple to use and has a really simple user interface, it's cheap, into something that maybe I can control all of my locations through it. I've got handhelds, hardware that isn't an iPad that I have to replace every 6 months. That sort of, you start to see those costs kind of flying like we did with Square. I think that was the turning point for us was like, all right, we got to run. And then I was like, dang, I feel like I'm buying a new iPad every 4 months.
The Butterfinger baristas dropping those things.
Yeah, the Butterfinger baristas. No, it's true. And then, so it really is. I think we've said it time and time again, start with free and cheap if you can, and then stair step when you absolutely have to stair step.
So, I mean, obviously my perspective is going to be different than yours. You've been off the front lines for a while and I'm getting further and further from it, every day. But what would you say are the top 3 or 4 things that you're going to want to have a POS system if you're going into this as a brand new coffee shop? Like say, I don't have much experience, but I have the motivation to do something in coffee.
Okay.
So what are the top 3 or 4 things that I want to look for in a POS system to serve me well in these first few steps?
I would say setup ease. Like if it's going to take you 5 hours to create your menu inside that, like that's just going to turn you off right away. It's like, how easy is it to just get up and go? Obviously reporting, sales reporting. And then it's nice also if it has employee management in there as well. Although you can do that separately. If it has that, that's great. So I'd say ease of setup, reporting, absolutely some sort of loyalty program. Like that's like, don't start with stamp cards. Start with a digital loyalty program and get your customers trained on that so they're not used to seeing stamp cards. And then I would say absolutely the ability to control your shop from afar. Like you said, be able to swap out the menu on your phone. Like you don't want to have to go into the shop to be able to change something. Or like if something wrong or is broken, you don't want to have to, if you're, a state away, if you're on vacation on the beach somewhere, you don't have to be like, shoot, that our shop's just screwed until I get home again and I can get to the shop.
So if I have, let's say I'm going from the three or four stores and I'm using a Square and I'm going to upgrade to something a little bit better. What do you think about POS systems that offer inventory management? Think that that's something that would be helpful, or do you think that they should stick to their lane and wires get crossed when it gets too complex? What's your opinion on that?
With inventory, like inventory in itself is extremely simple. I think the problem is that people over complexify it, or you'll have platforms that say we're an inventory platform. So to make themselves seem viable and worth the money, they over complexify it. But if it's in the POS, I think usually they're pretty good, because really all I need to do is just count how many drinks I input as my inventory and count how many drinks are going out the window from our POS system. Like if you can do that, great. That's a great start. If you want to start having, especially the coffee shop, it's not like you have a ton of inventory. You're not a warehouse. You've got ingredients and you've got dry goods that you're keeping an eye on. If you start, making your own food and sauces and syrup. So we're talking about like your inventory that's growing up over like 150. Sure, you might want to shift away to something outside the POS. But if your worry is, and what you focus on is like, I just want to make sure that how many drinks I'm selling is shown in how much inventory is on my shelves. I think an internal POS inventory system is just fine for that.
I know that here is obviously a little unique, but we're about to open our third shop and we have a whole separate intense system on how we do our inventory. And I've seen a couple of our clients work through inventory management software that's integrated into their POS systems. And honestly, it seems just from what I've seen, just as complex, just as complex to manage. And it's going to take another department head, they
Mhm.
want to call it a whole other brain to manage that side of things. So as we move into 3 stores, I was wondering, if that's something that we should consider. But really, the one that we've created as far as our inventory system management is custom to us. Yeah, it doesn't get much better.
Well, and you have a super, super, super niche custom need for tracking things. We're for Daily Smiles, you're talking actually about like national trade, like international trade and shipping.
Yeah,
What about international shipping rates?
that's true. Well, and we do, you mentioned not a warehouse. We do have to warehouse some of our own stuff just because of
Yeah.
that 3 to 4 week timeline.
And really, the only plus of your inventory system being inside your POS system is A, it's under one roof, but you should have that direct integration where it's counting drinks being sold against your inventory that you input. Like that's, it just basically takes out that step. Without that, you yourself have to go, okay, I have this amount of inventory. Let me go and then pull a manual report for all of last week's drinks sold. And now I've got to compare the two. The nice of it being the POS is it should do that for you automatically and give you, weekly averages, your, overages, underages. So that's where it's nice. But I think, for Taylor's Mice, it's such a unique situation. I don't know that there would be something like that.
It is unique. And for most of our clients, I think I have mainly most of my history experience in Square, but I did work with a client for a few years who was using Toast, and it's so handy, the integration, reporting, the way it's integrating with your scheduling software. If you're using a separate scheduling, I'm not sure if it offers scheduling, but they're using 7 shifts at the time. They integrated seamlessly both ways. So I could be looking at my 7 shifts dashboard and it would be showing me versus the sales that Toast had uploaded into the system for that, period of time. And vice versa. If I'm looking at Toast, it would show me my hours that were uploaded into the system for that period of time. And I know as a business owner, schedules are always on the mind. And so if you can integrate schedules in the same screen, as you're looking at sales, did wonders for me and the team that I was working with.
Yeah. Toast does a really good job of giving you a live look at your payroll percentage, just of people on whoever's working and what that's compared to against your sales. But also one thing we didn't mention at all, especially in the US, is like how well does it connect to GrubHub or
Mhm.
Eats or in DoorDash? Host actually does a really great job of that, where they integrate with Homebase. Homebase basically connects to your KDS, and as those orders come through the apps, they show up on your KDS just like they would if somebody's standing in front making an order, and the baristas can make those drinks ahead of time and get them ready for the customers. Super, super nice.
Well, and I'm obviously forget about that because I'm here, but I think
Mhm.
one of our clients was talking about, it's so nice to see the separation of sales between what is, DoorDash, GrubHub? What are our delivery sales versus what is customers coming into the shop? Because that's a tell, lets you know what percentage of people are waiting in line to receive their drink, and what percentage of people are actually ordering ahead. Because ordering ahead, it gives you a huge leg up. All that feeds into how I'm going to staff my shop. How am I going to staff a shop? How many people do I need? Do I need an extra person to be aware and try? If it's such a big number of delivery orders, do I need an extra person in the stand to be aware of those delivery orders to manage that specific? We've all been baristas. It can get so chaotic. If I'm just focusing on people there, because I have an extra brain to look, ahead at what is being ordered ahead of time, can be a huge help.
Yep. I agree. Well, Mr. Drew, I think we'll have to cut it off there. Like I said, I really like Toast for the price and for the features that they have. But like you said, time and time again, we will always recommend free and easy, and Square's just the kill at that. So if you're looking to start a coffee shop, or if you're looking to swap a few licenses, those are our recommendations.
That's right. I love Square, love 7 Shifts, love Toast, love all the integrations, and take the leap if you're looking to upgrade, and if not, customize your stuff and be comfortable with it.
Yep. All right, Quinn.
Nice to see you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.